Greetings, Skill Incarnate bringing you all the latest indie gaming goodness. Welcome back as we check out another indie game. This time we're looking at Occupy Mars, developed by Pyramid Games and published by my friends at Playway. I was lucky enough to get access to the beta of the game, and it captured my imagination with its detailed farming, crafting and electrical systems. The game has you colonising the surface of the red planet, using a variety of tools, vehicles and eventually a massive base. Now, this game is a really addictive experience, and rather than doing a first impressions video, I wanted to do a base tour, because I've been playing a fair bit of Occupy Mars. I'm going to show you my base so far, and what has changed between the beta and the full release of the game. More importantly, I'm going to show you why you should check out Occupy Mars. Now, a lot has changed since the early build of Occupy Mars for the beta. The game is now a lot more unforgiving, with less resources and without some of the big vehicles we got in the beta build of the game. With that being said, you can enable these by selecting a different difficulty. But by default, we have our ATV for transport. I found this in the nearby base. Unfortunately, it's not in very good shape. I'm going to have to do some repairs on the electrical system of the vehicle before we can use it. But before that, let's have a look at the base. Here we have a basic habitat. There's not much in here except the most essential items for survival. I'll eventually expand this and make it a bit bigger. We have a water collector, and this is gathering water 24 hours a day. It's solar powered, and I have it jacked into my solar farm to keep it running during the night. In addition to providing water to the farm, I can also refill my water bottles directly from the unit, like so. This is a big change from the early game where we had to directly grab water straight out of the pipe here, having to disconnect whatever we've got connected to it. Now over here we have the solar farm, the cornerstone of my base. This is a large energy control unit, or basically a solar battery. And in here, all of my power is going from the solar farm. We've got a transformer here. All of my solar panels are plugged into the transformer. Excuse the spaghetti cable, but we've got a fair few panels here coming in. All of the power is being shunted to the battery, and from the battery it goes into another transformer, which then supplies power to the base and to the water collector. So every system can be chained into another system via the different outlets and power cables, and it is quite involved. So if you want to know more about how it all works, then I suggest you check out my video on the beta version of the game, which goes over the whole base building, farming and electrical systems. Inside we have the farm. And we can see here I've got some crops that have just finished growing. Nothing special, just a bunch of taters. We're going to reload the hydroponics tray. Here we've got an incubator. I don't yet have a planter box yet. With the planter I'll be able to move these in mass rather than one at a time, but for the moment this is going to keep us alive. Moving all of these over to the hydroponics bay, where they will grow to maturity and then can be harvested. All of these are controlled via the climate control system in the center of the base, which I'll show you in a second. Now this is a fairly involved process. The farming, even with these simple crops, it's a two-stage farming process. So if you don't know what you're doing, it's very easy to get lost in how to create these. But I've done the early video is a simple guide on how to get these crops to maturity. So I'll pop these in here and they're going to grow, and then I can harvest those too. Food is a big thing on Mars. We have to try and keep ahead of things when there's different storms and various I guess different elemental effects. So you can get lightning storms, you can get dust storms, you can have meteors come crashing down later on, but for now we're just trying to survive. And we can see here already I need to have this set correctly. There's not enough water going to those crops. Here we go. Okay, I'll just double check. Okay. So there's no demand here because we haven't planted any crops. So that's okay. We're going to head over to here and we're going to make some seeds, which is nice and easy. We want 20 seeds. That will be enough to create a set of a magazine for our farming gun. Yes, we do farm with a gun in this game. Now I know you don't need to strictly make seeds. You can just plant the potatoes directly, but for the purpose of the game, we have a seed magazine here that we're going to load into our seed gun. Yes, this game has possibly the most gangster way to do farming I've seen in a survival game. You literally shoot the seeds into the planter. The only way this would get any better is if I could turn this thing sideways, but for now, we've got a full set of crops growing. Beautiful. So I'll close that bad boy up. Go and check over here, and this should now... Let's just get this correct. Too much water. I need too little water, I should say. Beautiful. So that's all set. We've got water coming to those. We've got water coming to the incubation. When that reaches 50%, we're going to remove those and place them into the hydroponics bay. Now what we're going to do is to make some food. We'll chuck our potatoes in here and we're going to make some MREs like so. And you can eat the potatoes as is, but making them into MREs makes them not rot, so they will last forever. We've got a nice set of processed food here. We can smash some of this down to keep us going. Beautiful. The last thing we need to do is to repair our PCB board, which we're going to place into here. And we're going to do a repair, and these boards are non-replaceable, so we need to be very careful and to keep them in tip-top shape. And this is one of the best electrical systems I've seen in a survival game. Look at this, you can zoom in, you can rotate the board, and it even gives you a bit of a summary on what parts need replacement. So now we need to remove the solder from this piece, and we need to, let's get the hot air gun, and we're going to, because this bit's damaged, so we're going to get rid of that. Get rid of that. We're going to put a fresh piece on the board, a fresh component. So bang that off. Yep, there we go. And grab another one, fresh piece. Again, I'm zooming in. You can see everything on the board. We're going to have to solder that component onto here. Rotate it so you can see what you're doing. It is very precise. And as someone who has a bit of an interest in electronics, I really like the way that they've handled this in the game. One of the most realistic depictions of electronics, unless you've played Playway's other game, Electrician Simulator, which is one that I hope to cover in the future. So I've got one more piece that, this one is also broken, so we have to remove the solder. I'm going to rotate this so I can see what I'm doing. So it's not super accurate. Sometimes the camera plays tricks on you, but you can take your time here, although I do recommend you do keep things moving. If we only have so many hours of daylight. There we go. Now we can take that piece, get rid of that, and put a fresh one in. There we go, fresh resistor. Bang, and then we solder this one onto the board, and then this board will be ready for use. Rotate this so I can see what I'm doing. Fantastic. So not only have we repaired that, we've got ourselves some experience and we've got a usable board. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of an upgrade for my mining tool. Now I've already done this. I've done this for the grinder. You can see it's an improved version. I cannot upgrade it any further, so we're going to upgrade our jackhammer, which is basically our mining tool. This is going to upgrade that, and then it will make my mining efforts a lot easier. So you can upgrade all of your tools to an improved version, and if you want to improve them any further, you need to unlock the blueprint and have the required materials to do so. But with a level 2 upgrade on my grinder, we're able to go and to start deconstructing some of the other habitats and to use the components to improve our own. Oops. So, grab this improved jackhammer. That's going to be a lot faster. So let's head on out of here. And we're going to go and, with our repaired board, our ATV should be fully operational. Beautiful. But we want to, of course, remove the power cable before we go. Actually, I'm going to drop that into the drop pod, and you can also recharge your own suit directly from your solar panels. Beautiful. Now she's not much to look at, she's a bit banged up, but this thing is a lifesaver in the early game. It's the best way to get around Mars, and it's pretty cheap on power. You can recharge it in a couple of hours and it's ready to go, and it only uses one small board. Now boards are found at all of these habitats like this. You cannot build them, so you must find them around, and different buildings require different boards. All of these powered buildings, you can see I've already pinched the one out of this, they all require a board. So that's why my base is so small right now. I need more of these boards. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grind down some of these solar panels, and we're going to use the components to build more at the base. Now it's not much to look at, but remember I've been playing the campaign for about 4 or 5 hours, probably more. The game progresses a lot slower now. You're going to have to, it's a lot more unforgiving. But I do like it, because in the beta version, with access to the heavy rover and all the fancy equipment and ready-made basic, it felt a little too easy. Now you really have to work for it. It also encourages you to explore the planet, because you'll find different crops. You'll find additional boards, and you also need to find blueprints. Blueprints are found inside of PDAs. PDAs are basically tablets that will have the notes and research data from other colonists who are on the planet, and they will provide us with additional knowledge and additional blueprints we can use to build things. Things like bigger solar panels, additional habitat modules, larger farms, bigger vehicles, all that good stuff. So these water tanks, they're all busted. With our fancy grinder, we're able to grind all of these down. I'm going to use the components to expand my own solar farm and to build, hopefully, a additional transformer. So the bigger batteries, bigger transformers will allow us to produce and store more power. Right now, that current setup I've got will only supply power to the base for a single night. That means if there's any storms, then or any bad weather that prevents the sun from coming out, which is fairly common, then the crops will start to die, and more importantly, I may run out of water in the base. Eventually, we want to set up a bed inside the base, so I'm not having to sleep in the habitat or in the crash pod, which is not really good. You'll notice my health was pretty low at the start. You don't get a restful sleep in the crash pod. So I want to set up a living quarters for myself. Beautiful, we're all done. Now there is a couple of things we'll need to build. Now this thing isn't too fast, but it's very, very economical on power. It's fast charging and it's very lightweight. Now later on we'll get things like jetpacks, a motorcycle, we can do a bit of an Evel Knievel. But I've been zipping around the surface of the planet, gathering resources on this thing, and as a result, I'm gonna let's refill our air. So we can refill oxygen. There we go, beautiful. Grab that, that's just a spare air bottle. And here we've got our handy dandy 3D printer that will print whatever we need using the different ores we get from the planet. So I'm gonna get some electronics. These are things that we need to build our transformer. And we're also going to need a ton of cable. So I'm going to, let's say 40 cable, which will give us 400 units of cable. You go through these fairly quick. Beautiful. Looking good, looking good. Take that engine as well. Okay. Now it's getting a bit late in the day. I don't know if we'll have time to build everything we want today. But I want to build 3 panels. And that should be enough to expand our transformer. We're going to need to expand it because I only got 2 slots there. Everything else is full. So what we can do, we'll go to our blueprints. And we're going to go to transformer upgrade. Boom. Now, the good thing about upgrading these is you don't need an electrical board for each upgrade. You only need 1 to run the whole thing. So now we've got another 8 slots. I don't think we're going to have enough. We're not going to have enough time or resources to make another 8 panels, but I'd be happy with another 3. Here we go. I think here's a good spot. Beautiful. We'll drop these down. It's a bit finicky trying to drop these. Sometimes it doesn't. The game doesn't recognize that you're in an area where you can build a panel, so you just have to kind of experiment a bit. Left do there. And there we go. It doesn't matter that they don't align because the panels move with the position of the sun. So depending on where the sun is during the day, the panel will automatically move, which is great. Unlike games like Space Engineers, where I have to manually build rotating arrays to follow the sun, this game does it all automatically. Now each panel provides a whopping 6 watts of power an hour, which, yeah, not a hell of a lot, but let's get these bad boys hooked up. Now there's not much power to be gained at this time during the day, but we do what we can. I wish I could splice wires together, just run a single thick wire. Maybe something the developer could consider for a future update. Because it doesn't matter how hard you try, you end up with spaghetti wire. There we go, we got one more. It seems I built just enough wire. Got just enough. Here we go. So let's have a look right before the sun goes down. Yep, the solar panels are providing 6 watts. And we're now getting, instead of 60 watts in, we're getting 78. Very nice. That's a nice big, almost 3 times our power usage. I'm going to see if I can build an additional. I probably can't. We'll see if we can do it. I can. Beautiful. Oh no, we want the upgrade. I can. Beautiful. Look at that. Now this was a hell of a lot faster than manually mining the materials. We pulled apart the other base and we've used those components. And as we can see, this battery will now stow a whopping 1260 kilowatts of power. Far more than we need right now. And once this is full, I get an extra board. I'm going to build a second battery right about here. And even if you get it wrong, you can always rip things apart and move them around and rejig everything the way you like it, which is one of the things I love about the game. I'm probably going to add an additional module here for the habitat. Expand that, but that's going to be for a future episode. Let's go and have one last look at the crops, make sure everything's growing as it should. Very good. Look at that. We can see it's already gone from 50 to 65%. A couple of days, that's going to be ready to go. And these are 11% already, so they're growing really fast. We need to keep this closed until they're fully grown. And that is it. That is my base, and hopefully a bit of an introduction to the game. If you haven't seen my previous video, highly recommend checking that out, as it is a bit of a guide on how I did everything I did today, how to set up solar arrays, how to build a farm, how to set up your base, how the vehicles work. Speaking of which, I'll head back and get mine. Really enjoying this game so far. Very highly recommend it. If you are a fan of survival games, and if you want a game that's a bit, a lot of survival games are really high stakes. You've got, zombies or aliens and tower defense. This game, your only enemy is the environment. Now, don't get me wrong, the environment is pretty unforgiving, but once you get a base going and you are all set up with a food supply, water supply, you are free to explore at your own pace. And now I am kind of set up, I can relax a bit and start venturing out to see what the Red Planet has to offer. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you a bit of incentive to check out this fantastic game. Big thanks to the developers, and thanks to Playway as always. I hope you'll join me next time when we check out another indie game. Until then, Skill Incarnate, out.